So now I'll formally introduce myself. Okay, my name is Nadia. I'm from Indonesia, and I'm here as the representative from Student Committee on Veterinary Education for Journal of Veterinary Education. So before we proceed, can you please introduce yourself?
Of course. So my name is Merel. I'm the president of IVSA Global, 22 years old, from the Netherlands, but I study at Ghent University in Belgium.
Amazing. Okay, as the current president of International Veterinary Student Association, I'm sure that you have interacted with lots of veterinary students from all around the world. And a veterinary course might be different from country to country. With your first experiences interacting with veterinary students from all around the world, what is your perspective about the fundamentally essential module that should be included in every country?
Let's see. That's difficult because obviously there's like all of the basics everyone kind of needs: parasitology, bacteriology, virology, anatomy. These are all like very basic things that I think should be included in definitely every course. But besides those basic ones, what I think is incredibly important is communication skills. And that's something we get at Ghent University, though I do think it's not something that can be taught enough. Basically, we would need, or I would have preferred, even more practice. So definitely communication skills are something I think should be a module in every single country.
Okay, I can totally agree with you with this. In contrast, which one subject do you think can be added to the current course to make veterinary education more efficient?
To make it more efficient, let's say probably something with technology, digital technology, artificial intelligence. These are things. It's a rapidly changing field, and our professors don't really know enough about it. Neither do we. So I think if we were to be taught more about that, that would definitely come in handy when we get to practice, because those are things we're going to run into every single day. Telemedicine is on the rise.
Okay, well, so what do you think that are the differences in the veterinary curriculum across different countries, and how do you think veterinary education in your home country differ from others?
Let's see. So the differences between countries, I think the most obvious thing I would say is the species that are highlighted the most in all of the curricula. So for example, in Belgium, we focus a lot on dogs and cats, horses, and cattle. And then when we think about like cows, for example, we think about the Belgian blue white. So we get a lot of C-sections that are being taught. But when you look at, for example, the Netherlands, which is where I'm from, we have less of a meat or like meat cattle. We have more dairy cattle. So then it's also a bit less C-sections. And so in the Netherlands, that's probably where the focus is going to be on. And then let's see. So I think I assume Indonesia, you guys are probably being taught about elephants as well, a bit more of the wildlife side maybe. Definitely in South Africa, those kinds of things are going to happen as well. And then let's say in Europe, there's lots of intensive farming, whilst in maybe some like the lesser developed regions or countries, there's going to be more extensive farming. So these are also differences I think that will be highlighted in everyone's curriculum. And then let's see, so what from my own country, or well, Belgium then, where I go to university, I think it's the C-sections that we're being taught so much. Yeah, that's because of the Belgian blue white that we have.
True. It's like depends on the geographic location of each university. So,
Yeah.
in your opinion, should every university provide a specialization course for undergraduate to focus more on their desired specialty? Or do you think an undergraduate should learn a little about each topic and take a specialization program after they graduate? And what is the reason for your answer?
Let's see. So I think it differs how you define undergraduate basically, because for me, we have a bachelor's degree and then a master's degree. So the bachelor's degree is like it's very general, and then the first 1.5 years of the master's are pretty general as well, and then the final 1.5 years is where you specialize, but you still graduate with a diploma basically that allows you to practice all types of veterinary medicine. And then in the Netherlands, I know it's 3 years of bachelor's general and then 3 years of master's where it's very specific, focused on like one species. So it's horses, production animals, or smaller animals. So I think it's a hard question because it really differs per person. I have lots of friends that say, I want to do both small animals and cattle, for example. I want to work in a mixed practice, but I also have a lot of friends who are like, horses, that's the only thing I want to do. So I think it'll differ per individual what they would prefer, I guess.
Yes, I agree, because there is like pro and cons. If like they didn't know what they're getting, they will not know what they want in the future.
Yeah, exactly. That's true.
So next question, to be a veterinarian, is it necessary to invest in more training? And in addition to the course itself, do you think students have the money to invest in more training than they have already spent for the university? Or is it only those who have the privilege to study abroad with better curriculum or take specialist degree? What is your opinion about this?
I think as much as possible should be covered by the university college fee. Because if besides just the regular fee, you're going to offer like additional books for, even if it's like just, let's say, a couple of euros, there will always be students that won't be able to afford it. I think it's better to have everyone as equals, say this is what everyone pays and this is what everyone gets. And this is like everything you need to get like the maximum amount of grades, basically. I don't think there should be any type of opportunity for the richer kids to buy more education tools, for example, that are going to help them get higher grade, because that's how you create inequality. And I don't think that's a good thing. So definitely keep it as equal as possible.
Okay, awesome answer. Okay, and based on your experience, what are the struggles that you personally face as a veterinary student?
Ooh, the struggles. There's so many of them. Let's see. So while all over the world, it really is, I think, one of the most difficult directions of study you can pick. The work pressure is just extremely high. What I personally run into are, we have 2 exam periods a year, but they last about 4 to 5 weeks, and then there's also 1 or 2 weeks in front, like where you're free, but that means you're studying from like 8 to 5. So that's, let's say, at least 6 or 7 weeks in total, where I completely have to give up my social life. I cannot go out, party, or just have a drink with friends. It's literally 8 to 5 every single day. Sometimes even at night we'll have to continue of pure studying, and it's so stressful because the moment you have you've had one exam, sometimes you can't even take the night off. I've had times when I had to come home after an exam and it was in the afternoon, and at night I was studying for the next exam again. There was like zero time to relax in between, and that's just extremely stressful. Also, my birthday is in June, which is one of our exam periods, so I haven't been able to celebrate my birthday for 4 years, which really is horrible. So it's the exam periods that are super stressful, and then it's so many lectures that you need to keep up with, which makes it very hard to do extracurricular stuff, which I think is super important, because that's where I've learned so much of basically who and what I've become as a person. And then because you're so busy with lectures, and because there's a lack of practical experience as well, at least in my university, so that's what I run into, you need to take care of like your own internships. It's all voluntary. You need to basically just set up everything yourself if you want to get any practical experience basically before, let's say, your final year. It's hard to find the time for it. So it's almost impossible to both be a good student, have a social life, and be mentally stable.
I totally agree with you.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately. And it's really tough to become a veterinary student. So,
It really
in
is.
point of view, what are the benefits of having a transferable veterinary license to practice veterinary medicine?
So let's see. So just to make sure, a transferable veterinary license would be a license that's applicable anywhere in the world.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Well, honestly, like I want to work abroad for at least a couple of years. I've always wanted to work in Australia because I love koalas. They're my favorite animal, and it's like my ultimate dream to work with them. But for me, that means that I'd have to get the AVMA accreditation. Lots of universities in Europe aren't AVMA accredited, which means it will cost me a couple of $1,000s just to take additional tests and then to also take the NAVLE, which is so expensive, and it's money I'm not going to have when I graduate vet school. So I'll be forced to work in Belgium for a couple of years, save the money, and then be able to get the accreditation to actually go and work abroad, which is really unfair, because when I graduate, I'll be like a competent vet. Obviously, I'll be a newly graduated vet, so I'll need some extra guidance, but I'll need the guidance in Belgium, and I'll need the guidance in Australia. So if we manage to just get all vet schools to be on the same standard, because I do think that's important before you have an actual transferable license, then it'll just open up the way for so many more international kind of opportunities for vet students, because I think at this point I'm very limited to Europe. That's where I can practice, and that's a shame, because I think lots of students have so much to offer outside of Europe, outside of their own continent, outside of their own country sometimes even, and they should be given those opportunities.
Equality, amazing. Okay.
Yes, always equality.
Always equality. So, do you think despite the positive impacts that can be obtained from this transferable veterinary license, what is the negative impact? Will this cause in the quality of veterinary service?
I can see a couple of negative ones. For one, it would mean that all veterinary universities would have to live up to the same standards, which is very hard to achieve, especially because there's a very high, like there's huge differences like socioeconomically between the different regions we have, and even like between different countries within one region. So that's going to be very hard, because technologically seen, not every region is as developed. You're not going to get like the same, let's say, surgical technologies that, for example, Ghent University has. They might not have like an aqua treadmill for dogs in somewhere in Africa, and they're not going to have this like the same high-tech microscopes in the Philippines as in, let's say, Utrecht. So these are, I think, the difficulties you're going to run into if you want to have a veterinary license that actually is transferable, because it's going to be super hard to actually educate people with the exact like same day one competences all around the world. And then another thing you're going to run into is that salary, like the wage people get on a monthly basis, a yearly basis, it's very different. When I hear my friends from the US talk, I'm jealous. They make so much money. It's insane. So you're going to have lots of people that are going to want to leave their country to like the better paying countries. And then there might be a shortage of vets in lower income countries, which is also not what you want, because vets are crucial to like to every economy, basically. So that's what I would say.
Okay, amazing. I think you have touched in this next question answer, but can you tell us more, in your perspective, what should a university consider before providing transferable veterinary license to their graduate?
I think basically there would have to be some type of universal list of day one competencies, and that's what everyone's gonna have to know, which is very difficult as well, because then that means you're gonna have to know about all of the species all over the world. Like I would have to know about camels if the transferable license would have to like get me to Morocco, for example. And I definitely do not learn a thing about camels in Ghent, which is fair enough because I don't really need it. So what would they have to consider? Everything about veterinary medicine. Basically, they're going to have to cover every single aspect about every single animal. As I said, all of the like different technologies, they're going to have to be on the same page. Communication skills, there we are again. It's going to have to be the same for all of the vets. And then English, maybe even Spanish, but definitely everyone should have their classes in English then, because without speaking the language, or well, speaking English as a universal language, it's going to be impossible to go to another country.
Okay, that's a tough one. So instead of the last question, we are going to talk more with the topic you are more familiar with. So IVSA recently collaborated with European Association of Establishment for Veterinary Education, EAEVE, to communicate the issue of veterinary undergraduate to create more effective and cost-efficient way to teach veterinary medicine. Can you tell us more about what positive aspect and benefit IVSA member can obtain from this collaboration?
So with the EAV, we have a partnership surrounding the Easy Vet program, which is a visitations program where EAV accredited universities get audited basically by a team of experts, and then every time that team also has a student expert, which IVSA promotes. Doesn't necessarily only need to be IVSA members, but we promote it and we offer that opportunity to our students, and students from EAV accredited universities can apply, and then they'll get to go on a visitation. It'll never be their same university, so it's never going to be their own university, because that's, on the one hand, conflict of interest. On the other hand, not as exciting, because this means you're actually going to get to like they'll cover your travel, your accommodation. You'll get an actual like training beforehand to make sure you're qualified to go on the visitation. And then you'll get to work alongside like an entire team of experts on veterinary education for the entire week. They're going to teach you so much. You're going to get to like interact with the local students, see how their university is doing things. You'll get to learn things from them, and Yeah, I've applied myself only just 2 weeks ago because I think it really is a great opportunity. So yeah, I think for all IVSA members from EAV accredited schools, I would highly recommend you going on an Easy Vet visitation.
Oh, that's an awesome opportunity. I wish that my school is accredited so we can go to. So that's the end of our interview. I'm so thankful and honored to be able to interview you, and thank you for taking your time to do this for us.
No problem, Nadia. Thank you so much for asking me to be interviewed. It was a great opportunity, and you did great. You really had some great questions prepared. So I hope I answered okay. I
Your,
felt I was kind of improvising, but
your answers are awesome. I keep repeating the same word. I'm so sorry if my pronunciation is not that good and you couldn't understand what I was saying.
no worries at all. I managed. And your English is great, so please don't worry.
Thank you.